But now we're back at it with our repair school. And I'm
Yeah,
excited.
I mean,
I'm
Turtles
excited
is
to
fun and
learn.
all, but I definitely missed repair school.
Um, I'm ready to learn. I hope everyone else is ready to learn too. And when we start getting people in, we'll see how our levels sound for them.
That's the one thing I've learned from streaming school is it doesn't matter how many times you check your audio levels, they're never good.
Very true. Oh, it says we're live. Welcome, welcome. PinTech. Takes a while to update. We are holding. I have plenty of memory. We are still sending the data.
Where are we sending the data?
Hello, everybody. Oh, we're starting to get some people in. My restream hasn't caught up yet. Yes, 3 rules of streaming. Test, test, test. I think you forgot to test. Can you hear us? Hi, Greer, South. Hi from Greer, South Carolina. Oh, where's Greer, South Carolina? Is that near you guys, Kyle?
Everything relatively is near Columbia because it's a very small state.
How does Kyle sound? Kyle,
How
what
do
are
I
you
sound?
doing today?
I'm doing great. I'm excited to teach and do and speak. I hope our levels are good.
Awesome. We're
It's
getting
really hot
some.
outside, so I'm
We're
not
getting
looking
some
forward to
solid
going
bids.
outside again.
I know it's so hot and humid, right? Okay, well, let's go ahead and get to it. We're gonna be doing some fun stuff today. So I'll click this guy. I still need a little jingle there. Hello, everybody. Welcome to PinTech Live, episode 11. We made it into the 11th episode. That's
Wow,
awesome.
that's
Last week, we did an awesome unboxing of Stern Pinball's new Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Pro machine. We had so much fun talking to the engineers and developers of that game and Jeremy Packer, the artist, who did an amazing job. But today, what are we going to be doing, Kyle?
we're going to be changing some drop targets on a very standard Bally drop target bank. This is very valuable information.
Yes. Yes, it is.
It's
I'm
been a
excited
while
for it.
since I've done it, so bear with me while I maybe make 1 or 2 mistakes, but it's very simple.
Yay, welcome TJ Buyer, 3 weeks in a row. Welcome everyone that's here. I'd like to let you guys know we're trying a little something. We have activated a 24-hour code for our PinTech followers, fans. Fan sounds weird to me. For our PinTech students,
PinTech pupils.
y'all in the audience. So, Midge, if you could post that code link, this will work until tomorrow at 3 p.m. Eastern. And it's another one of those fun $99 orders. You get free ground shipping links. So, just for y'all, we'll try to continue to post that throughout the day and hopefully you can take advantage of it. I recommend doing what I do is I spend all week adding stuff to my cart, and it always saves in the cart as long as you have a username and login for Marco.
Yeah, as long as you're
Pinball.com.
logged in, don't use a guest account. Make sure you're logged into your account.
Yes, and then it's all there. And so I just racked up to 150, so I'm about to get some hard body parts. So, all right, Kyle, let's jump into some drop targets.
Okay. It's a slight crime because the drop targets on this game are like amazingly mismatched. We've got like a blank one. Let's see. Let's examine the amazing drop targets we have.
Yeah,
here.
This is what I wanted to do on my game. I wanted to put all random drop targets, and Kyle is a purist. And
sorry, this camera's gonna go goofy for 1 second because I forgot.
You're doing some manual stuff.
Yeah, we were streaming Turtles last night, and I had the focus set exactly. But now we're zooming in. Yeah, well,
All
we've
right, let's
got
see.
a naked one. We've got a
Oops, wrong camera.
stern target. We've got an explosion. Possibly the only
Where's that
stock
camera?
target left on the game, the Jack. And then we've got a Q from Kings of Steel. So
That's awesome. You don't
I,
want to keep it like that? I mean, besides the fact that they're crusty, you're gonna
I
make
do
it
want to
stock,
keep them
right?
like that, but let's, you know, for the sake of education, let's make them correct. Let's get this done
I like
right.
that idea.
So, obviously, first step, we always want to make sure our game's off. Always remove your ball before you get the game's playfield up.
Oops.
We have a benefit on this game. I don't know when, but at a certain point, Bally decided, hey, it doesn't cost much, and it is really an awesome added feature with to be able to remove the drop target banks. I'm going to zoom in instead of moving the camera around as much as I did last time. We've got a plug here that allows us to disconnect the bank and be able to bring it to our bench. So we are going to be doing that today. So the first little bit here is me just removing the drop target bank so we can get it to our bench. Let me see if I can get a good angle. First thing we'll do, unplug this plug. It's a 12 bank or a 9-pin 0.093 Molex connector. It's so nice. The rest of this is all held on with 1/4-inch head screws.
Okay.
So we will get those out.
And just a reminder, the game's turned off, unplugged.
It's not unplugged. I did not do the unplugging, but turning the power off here is enough to do this job.
Okay.
If you're working in the head or you're working around the circuit boards or anything, absolutely unplug your game if you're not sure what you're doing. Just turning the power off will give us the ability to be safe touching all of this stuff. We've got 8 or 6 screws that hold this bank on. We've got 4 that hold the bank onto the playfield here, and then 2 inside. And I'll try to get a good view of those once I get to that. When I take these things off, I always like to take the bottom ones off first, bottom being relative to where the mechanism is hanging, right? So right now, it's going to be hanging on these things. If I took all the ones on top off, you know, maybe the thing would want to fall and possibly bend this thin sheet metal. I don't think it's actually a concern. I just like to do it that way. It makes me feel good. So I'm gonna keep getting these guys off. Now this method will be the same for most Bally drop target banks. I don't know when they went to this style, but I can say at least like back to around Captain Fantastic-y era, mid-70s, they've been using a similar bank. They're not exactly the same, but they are similar enough. Working on these drop target banks, you could absolutely do this job with it in the game, but for the sake of the video, it's absolutely so much easier to remove it from the game. That being said, though, with games from the early 80s and before, you won't have the luxury of removing this stuff. You will have to do it in the game, unless you wanted to unscrew every single switch, unsolder the coil. It's a pain. You don't want to do that. Get these guys inside. Let me lift the camera up and show you these inside screws. You can peek up in here.
Am I frozen? My internet is just doing terrible today.
You're all good over here.
Oh, okay. I'm smiling, but I have this. I look frozen on your team viewer.
So you've got 2 screws on the inside of the bank right here. They're not necessarily installed on every single drop target bank. They might be in a different position depending on game, but if you undo these and you're like, wait, why won't it come off? Take a look, see, you'll find a hidden one somewhere. I'm gonna switch to a magnetic nut driver to get these 2 inside ones off so I don't have to fish them out of the mech. Once I get it down to 1 last screw, I will support it so it doesn't want to do anything goofy. When they install these into the playfield, they do install them in at an angle. most of the time. I have worked on some older games where they are attached with a Phillips head screw, like a big pan head screw, and you do have to get a screwdriver to fit through the bottom holes on these banks. So again, it's similar enough to most games, but some work might be different depending on what game you're working on. And then there it comes.
Yay!
This bank does have these stand-up targets attached to the bank as well, so
Sheesh.
it's a little different than most of your standard drop target banks, but this is how Lady Luck comes apart.
Very cool. And you're not changing those stand-up targets, right? Those look pretty in good condition.
Yeah, no, the stand-up targets are okay. They still work. They're red. They're actually, I mean, they're kind of beat up, but for the sake of the game, this isn't a shiny game. This is a game I intend to play and beat up, but it would be nice to get some nice new drop targets in there.
Yeah, all right. So let's go over the workbench and do it.
Yeah.
Exciting.
I gotta move one camera here, and then hopefully we'll have enough light. Off we go. I just kicked the camera, sorry.
Look, he's all set up. How pro. So we just got in these new Lady Luck drop targets. Right,
yeah,
Kyle?
we just got
So what's so special about these? Because I noticed you could also get individual drop targets, the white wedge tops, and then just put the Lady Luck decals, which we both had before, as you can see on the screen right there.
So,
you know, if you ever have that, but now we have a full set available.
The way these targets were, oh, that's the camera I'm looking at. Hi.
Hi.
The way that these targets were from the factory is they use a process called hot stamping. So instead of having a blank target with a decal or an applique put on, they use a machine that has like I guess it's like a stamp, right? Something you'd stamp on paper with the shape they need, and it's rolled over with ink, and then they use heat and apply it, and it gets it melts it into the actual drop target. So there's nothing wrong with the decal.
Cool. Can you show us a close-up of that on your Sony cam?
Yeah.
Let me switch over to that. Let's see if we can get it. Oof.
I don't have an example of a drop target with a decal on it, but most of your old Gottlieb and Bally games of this era, again, 70s to mid 80s, are going to use these. Originally would use a hot stamping technique. We're lucky to have people that still do this. So if you want to go super original, I do like getting the correct hot stamp drop targets. They are very beautiful. They've got texture to them. You can't see that through the camera, but yeah.
Nice, nice. Yeah, that's beautiful.
Yeah, so it will be, it's a pretty simple swap over with this bank too. What the basic assembly of this mechanism, let me get this screen facing this way so I can kind of see what I'm showing. Sorry. In this mechanism, you have an arm that lifts up little fingers that are attached to the bottom of each of these drop targets. So you've got this slit right here in the bottom of the drop target where a finger goes through. And those fingers all rest on this arm that this solenoid is attached to. And when this solenoid fires, it drags all of them up, and they all latch onto the top of the bank. On the top flat there, if you look at the cross section, you can kind of see this little tooth.
Yeah.
Might not show through too good. I guess I could use the bank too. They actually all latch onto the tooth here. So when the ball comes and hits them, it loses its grip and they fall down. So they're under spring tension. So when it loses its grip on the top of the bank, it is pulled down. While it is pulled down, the switch in the back is open. When it gets to its resting position, the switch closes and the game knows you've hit your drop target and you score. So yeah, it's very, very simple, and they use this mech for 10 plus years. It's wonderful.
And it's pretty, just all Bally games, if they have drop targets, would pretty much look like this.
Yes. I mean, depending on, obviously, this is a 5-bank target. You know, a lot of games would use 4 banks.
Sure, yeah, mine's 4.
The inline drop targets are different. The inline drop targets work on a different principle altogether. You've got some games that, like Xenon and Viking, right behind me, they have remote drop targets. So it's a more complicated bank where there's actually teeny little coils that are mounted here at an angle that can drop the drop targets for you, depending what you do on the game. So again, there's a few different variations to it, but this is probably the most basic and straightforward drop target swap we could do.
Nice. Kevin Moore in the chat brought up something interesting. I don't know if you've ever seen this, Kyle, where he says, on these targets, the bottoms need to be trimmed for nitro ground shaker. Otherwise, the target sticks up about 1/8 of an inch from the playfield. So do you ever have to see doing trimming on the bottom?
That could be a manufacturing thing. We'd have to take a look. You can individually balance the height of the drop target if you bend this bracket just a teeny bit. I wouldn't recommend cranking or moving this thing too much because it is sheet metal and can break. But you can adjust the height by, I'll show you the fingers when it all comes apart. These guys right here, the bottom of each target rests on one of these fingers that you can move up and down. So instead of trimming, you might be able to do something like that. But if you got those targets from us, let us know, and I could take a look and figure out what's going on with those targets. Okay. So to get this thing apart, you don't need to, and this is why you can do this inside the game. We're going to do this without taking the entire thing apart. And again, I haven't done this for a little while. I make sure that my method is still in my brain, so bear with me. But the goal first is we're going to remove the bottom bits. We're going to remove the this bracket here that encapsulates the other sides, and then we're going to remove those fingers. So we'll start with that. There's 3 screws holding that on.
All right.
We can get that out of the way. And you can see just by removing one of those screws, again, that's where if you look at the top of the targets, this is where you can adjust a lot of that stuff out. So instead of trimming, you could try making those adjustments first. We'll get this guy out. And this one.
And another friendly reminder, if this is your first time doing something like this, which it would be mine as well, take lots of reference photos because you may not remember exactly how everything goes without them.
And if you do run in, something I want to teach people too is like, look for evidence, right? Treat this like your crime scene investigator or something. You know, there's 4 holes, but I only have 3 screws. Well, which holes did, you know, where did the screws go? You can see evidence marks, right? Can you see this imprint in each of these fingers where the screws were tightened down? That might be where your screw goes, right? So if you don't have a picture, you know, think and see, okay, what can I do to tell where these things went, what I'm missing?
Kyle loves being a pinball detective. That's part of the fun, right?
Detective, archaeologist, whatever you want to call it.
Oh, yeah, you're like Indiana Jones, sort of.
I should get an Indiana Jones hat. So we've got all these screws on the back side taken off. And now we are going to remove the 2 on the front here, and that will get the bottom of the bank off. Again, I keep saying you can do this in the game, but whenever you have the opportunity to do something on the bench, especially if it is old and grimy and gross, you know, take the longer route, take it out of the game, clean it. You know, it's just a joy working on things on the bench instead of bending over and trying to do stuff in the game.
Yeah, this looks a lot easier. So to do that, to pull that off, because my internet was kind of messed up, I'd have to desolder the coil and then unhook that switch and then unscrew everything and I'm good? Or you didn't even have to do that?
No, I think on your hard body it would be the same way. I'm pretty sure. I don't remember. It's been a while since I've seen my hard body, but you've got everything comes off on the plug on this game, and this game is similar in age to the hard body, where they might have done this for all the banks. So
this
unplug
is the
and
super
unscrew.
Easy one. Nice.
So the goal now is to be able to slip the fingers out of the bottom of all of these targets, right? These were the fingers I was talking about here. They're attached with a pin. I will remove one to show you what it looks like and how these things go together. I'll be using a teeny little screwdriver as a prying device to get these E-clips off. I'm going to face the E-clip facing up.
Yeah, can you zoom in on that your Sony?
Yeah,
I know you're bringing it to the camera, but maybe you zoom in a little bit more on the mech. We can watch as you do it.
It's hard because I do have there's things that flop in the way and want to get in the way of a good shot, but it might be easiest just to demonstrate this like in front of the lens. Let me see if I can. Why are your
hands not see-through?
I don't know, man. What I'll do is
Monson said, "Wow, a plug on the target bank. Is that not common?"
No. They did this in the later years. It's funny, they skipped spending a bunch of money on so many things, but they put in the budget to put everything on a plug at this time. So
cool.
It's just nice. It's a joy. I was working on a Swords of Fury once, and I needed to do work on the drop target bank in the back, and I spent the extra 45 minutes and made a plug connector. So the next time you have to take that bank out, yank it apart, and it's all good. It's worth doing. So, anywho, I've got the,
nice.
Let me demonstrate this with
Tilt down for me a little midge. Just a smidge. We got it.
So these pins here, they are what go through the finger that hold the drop target to the bank. And I'll get a better view of this, but this is what I'm doing, is disconnecting these guys from the bottom of the target. So this E-clip lives on the other side of this pin. Let me get it back on, and I can show you. Oh, I'm not going to snap it back on. That's just double work. But what you're doing is you're trying to get your screwdriver into this opening here, using a little bit of pressure and trying to get it off the clip. Put your finger over it so it doesn't go flying across the room. It's never fun to find these things once they're on the floor. So maybe it's in your best, maybe it's best to buy a couple extra just so you have one laying around.
Yes, I would say so, because those are tiny. When I took the screenshot for the graphic slide over here with all the products and stuff we use, I didn't think it was going to be that small. That is almost microscopic.
Okay, so actually it looks like I might not need to do my second step. Maybe this is unique to this era of drop target bank, but most of the time what I'll do with the older games is I will loosen but not remove these screws that kind of hold the remaining 4 flat pieces together. And that gives me a little wiggle room to be able to shift things. But I was just able to get enough clearance to get this drop target off of its finger to drag it out. So nice. Let me go back a few steps. What we'll do though first is you want to unclip that, get that pin out that holds the target in place. But we've also got springs that hold all these targets in. So you want to make sure to not. Let me get one out without breaking it. You want to make sure to not destroy these things when you're taking them out. Use needle nose pliers and try to get these openings up and around the bar that holds them in. There it goes. These springs attach to one of these bars here, and that is what drags the target down. So be careful not to just mangle your springs when you take them out. Be gentle. Right. You don't have to use a lot of force. But yeah. Let's get a close-up here since we have it out now.
It's like when you stretch out a slinky and then it doesn't do its slinky thing anymore.
There's no more slinking.
Tatooine Sky had a good question and kind of went along with my question about using decals on the drop targets. They were asking if you would recommend clear coating over the stickers so they don't wear off.
Overkill. It's, the stickers are so inexpensive, and the years it takes for them to start looking bad again, just spend another couple bucks and get some extra stickers.
Yeah, maybe just go ahead and when you grab the stickers, order a few sets just for later.
Yeah, I don't know, clear coating over other materials, with plastics and multiple plastics, and you never know how it's going to respond. They'll look fine. It's not going to wear out super quick, but personally, I always like to get the hot stamp targets when I can. So back to this finger guy, though. This is what the target rides in, right? So you can see here, you've got the back of the hook. This is what actuates the switch to score. You've got this hole here, which is where that pin goes, where the drop target is captive to move it up and down. And again, the goal is to get these things off of these fingers. So on some games, again, I'll have to loosen them up a little bit so you can slide the targets out through the top. To, instead of disassembling the entire assembly. This one's a lot easier than I thought it was going to be. So we have the easy bank to take apart this time. I'm going to continue the same process over and over again, but I'm going to start with the springs first instead of taking the pins out. And again, you're just going to gently pry those out. Might be a good idea to take them off of the rod so they don't get in the way and keep them separate from everything else. I can move back down, remove the pin. A little bit of pressure. Again, you're going to try to get your finger on top of the pin and pull up. Don't stab yourself like I just did. There it goes. You only need to take one side out, right? Because the pin is, it slides into either side of the drop target. So get whichever side is easiest to access and remove it. We can get this target out. And again, the way the target's going to come out is you've got it, it is captive in this finger here. So what we're going to try to do in this case is move the drop target down, try to get it out of its home. But this is a stern target. Okay, so even though a lot of these targets look similar, they are shaped slightly different. And this stern target has a taller hood on the top here that makes it not want to come out of the housing. So I will actually have to loosen everything out. Oh, no, I didn't. I could just push it harder. There it goes.
Dang, I didn't know you could do that. That's awesome. I mean, not awesome for you in this moment, but very interesting that you can use a stern drop target on a Bally Midway.
Well, the old,
whatever,
and we're talking old stern, right? We're talking like 70s and early 80s stern, but they basically copied everything Bally had. So a lot of the parts are interchangeable between some mechanisms. Let's see. Got the spring off. Get the clip off. There it goes. It is always fun, though, to see what, a spread of drop targets you get on some of these old games. It's just like, well, I couldn't get the right thing, but these fit, so let's use that.
Yeah, I've seen quite a few funny mods like that. Like the old Kiss game, the pop bumpers, the faces of the guys rubbed off, so they just drew the faces back on Sharpie.
That's always entertaining. I had I got a game a while ago. I don't remember what it was, but I think the drop target or the pop bumpers were supposed to be 1,000 when lit, but they had 100.1 and someone just put another 0 on. I always like that kind of stuff. All right, we get that spring off, get another clip.
Oh yeah, that's a good point. Jay Bovenzi says he uses a white towel, so it's easy to find the things that he puts down. Kyle's on super expert mode because you're using black on black. I don't know how you would even find those E-clips when you get to that point, unless you use that little magnetic bowl, But,
yes, magnetic bowl is nice. Unfortunately, my one magnetic bowl, I know where it is full of roller games parts right now. So
right.
I guess I need to invest in another. But yeah, no.
One bowl per game.
Benzi's right. Using a white towel is absolutely what you want to do. This was the only table covering I had, so we went ahead and used the black tablecloth for, expert hard mode.
We got to get a different color, huh? Or those orange microfiber cloths would be a really nice color, too.
Yeah, mega high contrast. Okay, last target. Get that off.
Nice.
And now this game's fun because each of the targets has it's supposed to go in a certain order. I guess it's it's a flush, right? Or a royal flush. I am not a card person. I don't know poker very well, but I think it's a royal flush, right? With the 10, ace, king, jack, queen. Whoop, there it goes. So we have to put the cards in accordingly. Or the drop targets
make
in.
sure it's in order. That would be a shame if you got it all the way to the end, rigged to the playfield, and then you're like, oh, why is the queen where the jack's supposed to go?
No, I've absolutely done that before. On games that have, or like, I think it was Centaur. I think I screwed up twice. It was like 1 in the morning, and I was getting a Centaur ready for a pinball show, and I put like the 2x target where the 4x target was supposed to go, and I think I put the orbs. I think I did like 1, 3, 2, 4, and I was, oh man. Be well slept when you're working on pinball. Don't make mistakes and do work twice. Okay.
Yeah, Mitchell Reader wants to see roller games finished. We almost have all the parts we need for that, right, Kyle?
Yes,
I've been waiting for that as well.
I was just talking about how bad I want roller games to be finished because I want to play it. We were remaking all the parts for the diverter. So I have the metal link that drives both of the diverter arms. We just got that remade. But now I'm waiting on the updated coil stop. Once I get the updated coil stop, I can figure out which plunger will work in the assembly, and we can sell it as an update kit. Williams put out a like a technical service bulletin that was like, wait, the way we shipped this was like really bad, and they break all the time. So here's a bunch of new parts to remake it, or make it more reliable. But they don't associate like part numbers with the old units. It was kind of confusing, but thankfully between friends I have on the internet and examples we had in real life, we were able to come up with the correct pieces. And yeah, we'll be able to offer the upgrade kit pretty soon here.
That's awesome.
Okay, so I'm going to go double check on the game to see which order these targets go in.
Okay, maybe I can get a...
It is...
do I have a shot over there?
From left to right, it's ace, king, queen, jack, 10. So 10 is on the right. I'm going to start with 10.
Carrie, what's up, bro?
So when we're reassembling the drop target bank, with the way that this one was able to come back apart, we will insert the targets through the bottom. Got to be gentle. Maybe the old worn out targets were so busted I won't be able to get it reversed, but I can. Okay. Totally are able to slip those things in just right. The hard part, or not hard, but the one technical part is getting this in the right plane to be able to go back together. Do we have a good view of this on this camera here?
Yes.
We're trying to get the finger to go through this, the routed out slit there, and kind of we want to get it gently up in to the top of the bank through the top hole. And then the important thing is we need to make sure that all of these fingers go through the corresponding slits in the back of the bank for the switch actuation. So just make sure you get those things lined up. Now that I've got that through, I am going to get one of my pins. I'm going to insert the pin through the drop target so we can attach it. Make it captive. With this bank, you do want to be particularly careful with resting it on the top since we do have those stand-ups there. Before we put this back in, we will inspect to make sure we didn't bend any of the switches. I see that a lot when I get service calls from people that I put new drop targets in and now they won't stop scoring. These switches can get bent out of shape if you're not careful when you're putting them in. So before you put the assembly back in, always double check your work.
That's a great tip.
I will use some needle nose pliers in this case to try and get these back on easy. Sometimes if you've got really callous fingers, you can just press them on. I'm going to try that. That hurts. What you can do is you can kind of get these E-clips started in their groove, or C-clips, I guess this is. Hold it in place. Get your needle nose pliers and grip the bottom of the pin and apply pressure in the correct direction, unlike I just did, to get it to snap on. Trying to do this without looking, and that's making it not so fun.
Yeah, we can kind of see. It's hard, you know. If you were the Invisible Man, this would be really awesome, but
I'll try to demonstrate off. Okay, hold on. I'm gonna have to do this with visual, my visual.
I know what you're doing right now.
I'm sorry, stream. I'm sacrificing your visuals for mine. But this is, I guess I'll try to insert the pin from the other side next time.
So Tatooine Sky, we are putting a promo code, free shipping, free ground shipping for orders over $99. It's just for today. It's something we want to start doing every week. You know, maybe we're working on a particular mech that you have to work on as well. So after the show, go on to the Marco Pinball website, put in your order, and use our link to get, you know, a little bit of a discount, because shipping is costly. And it's only for 24 hours. So if you miss it, we're sorry. But come back next Thursday at 3 p.m. again. We'll have a fresh new link for you, too. So you can spend all week loading up your cart, getting ready for this moment to where you
Free
can
shipping moment.
Nab a link by hanging out with us.
If Kyle has impressed you by like struggling with one C-clip, wow. For as long as he has, look at all my credibility just like fading away.
It's so tiny. I don't know how you do it. I would use like tweezers maybe. I'm sure you have the right tool. But.
I'm just gonna recallus my thumb. I'm just gonna try to push it on. This won't be comfortable.
Ooh, pinballers, free domestic shipping. I have to keep adding words to all of my promos because you guys find all the things I left out. 24 hours, free domestic ground shipping. Yes. Orders have to be over $99 in your cart.
All right. I finally got it after all that struggling.
Nice.
Now we've got it in. I'm going to put all the springs in last. We want to make sure we don't damage the springs with... I'm going to have to sit there and struggle with each and every single one of these clips. We'll keep the springs in last. But what you were trying to do is get this clip into this groove. And what I was trying to get done was using the needle nose pliers to grip the bottom of the pin and apply pressure to the top to snap it in place. What I ended up doing to kind of get it to work in my favor was using a wide flat blade screwdriver, getting the pin or the clip in place on the pin, and instead of using my thumb to push on the clip, I was using the tip of the screwdriver so I wouldn't rip my thumb into pieces. That is not ideal. I totally forgot what order the targets went in, but I'm pretty sure it was ace on the left, and now it should be jack. Let's give this a shot. Insert this target through here.
So just step and repeat for the next 4 targets.
Yep.
10, jack, queen, king, ace. Wait. Oh, yeah, that's fine.
Yeah, I think the highest value card being the ace, right, was on the left, and then it stepped down. So king, queen, jack, and then 10.
Like
at least that's how I'm trying to remember it.
Yeah. Per Monson says that they're doing a Medusa and 8-ball deluxe target replacement.
Medusa is an awful job. That is a very, very... I think actually Medusa, being an early game, that is one of the first games to have a plug. I mean, how many targets are on Medusa? Like 8? 10? I don't remember, but it's a big bank. But it is... You have to get the playfield up in just the right way so you can remove the bank from the back. It's pretty brutal.
Oof.
But Medusa is probably one of my favorite pinball games of all time. And you will be very happy to have some pretty new targets in there.
And yes, Carrie's working on a Swords of Fury playfield rebuild.
I love that game.
We'll have more free shipping links for orders over $99, domestic ground shipping only.
It only took one try.
Start loading up your cart.
Swords of Fury is one of those games like World Cup Soccer 94 that's not its name. It's not Swords of Fury, it's just Lion Man. World Cup Soccer is not World Cup Soccer, it's Dog Soccer.
Dog Soccer, yeah.
There are multiple games called World Cup Soccer, and instead of saying World Cup Soccer 94, no, it's just Dog Soccer.
Dog Soccer. What did you say Swords of Fury was? Because it broke up on my end. Swords?
Lion Man.
You called it Lion Man. Oh, Lion. Yeah, right.
It's just
Okay.
Lion Man.
Lion Man. Yeah, that game, when you hit the flippers, it makes like that shink, shink, like a sword swinging sound.
Yes.
I don't like it.
Oh, take that back.
It's old after a while. I think
No,
there's a
take
button
that
to
back.
turn
You
that off,
cannot.
right? They
That is
should
it.
have added something for the hard body flexes. So every time you flex, it's like,
We can add that if you want.
yeah, okay. That'd be a good episode. How to add your own sounds.
Yeah, let's
to a
decompile
game.
some ROMs that are probably like way too full and see if we can add some more sound. That's the benefit, I guess, to some of those like pin sound boards and stuff. Putting in custom sounds and stuff like that.
Yes.
All right. Am I going to be able to get this one?
He's getting in that E-clip.
Ah, look at that.
Clipped in. Nice.
The drop target gods are smiling upon me.
Yeah, you're getting faster each one.
It's like I've done this before.
Oh,
All
but
right.
that's the wrong drop target.
What?
I'm just
No.
kidding.
Oh. All right. King. So again, this is a important job to do too. I guess if I were to give some drop target tips, and this applies to Bally targets, but this really applies to like Gottlieb electromechanical targets. Do not just replace one. You have to do, 70% of the work to get in there to replace one target, or I guarantee you, if you have one broken one, the rest are going to get jealous right away and break. If you're going to take this thing out, if you're going to do the job, just replace them all. You will be really happy to not have to get in there and do the job multiple times.
That makes sense.
You know,
if you're going to replace one,
old.
replace them all.
The older it gets, the more brittle it gets, and it's just a race against time. Steel always wins versus a softer material. Steel being the pinball. Okay. Yeah, that was so easy. Watch, this is the one that's really going to give me trouble now.
I apologize in advance if my feed is coming out weird. We're like getting hit with a huge storm, so my internet is like intermittent.
Well, you're only a few states away, so if you're getting a storm, it might be coming to me soon too.
Yeah, we have that Sahara dust.
Sahara dust?
You didn't hear about all the dust from the Sahara Desert coming over here? You guys have it too in South Carolina. I
am inundated with all sorts of headlines. That is one I have not seen yet.
Oh, wow. I don't know what the dust does.
2020, man. It's a year of plagues.
Oh, thank you, Mitchell. Everything's robotic to me, and I'm trying so hard to learn how to do this so I can do it this weekend on my hard body, and I'm like...
We've got all of our targets attached to their respective...
Watch the playback.
Fingers, for lack of a better term. I'm just going to keep calling them fingers.
Oh, that's a really good quote. Hey, Kyle, Indie Pins remembered a quote that you said that was, every pinball machine needs repair, whether you know it or not.
Yep, it's true. Yeah, that can go on my gravestone. Okay, we've got all of these things pinned to their fingers now, so now it's simply putting the springs back on. I say simply because now watch, this is going to be my next bane. I can demonstrate on a used target. You've got your this hole up top, which is where the spring will clip through, and then it is tensioned up against the bank. So you want to make sure you get your springs in there nice and straight. Don't bend them. Don't destroy them. It is a good idea to have a couple extra on hand. You never know what is going to be missing, or you never know what's going to be pre-broken before you get and start working on your game, right? Somebody could have butchered this thing 20 years ago on a Friday night at 9 p.m. trying to get the game working again at a bar, you know? So it is good to have some of these extra pieces around before you do the jobs, or at least do some reconnaissance before you go in there and start ordering and buying your stuff. That one. Put a spring in here. Like that.
Nice. Oh, yeah. So are you installing the springs in spring resting position, meaning the drop targets are down so you don't have to like pull them out, or does it matter?
It doesn't really matter because right now at this point, without the bottom of the drop target bank on, the spring or the targets are going to sit lower than they would want to sit naturally, right? Once we get the bottom of this unit on, all the targets are going to sit up. So, you know, they're not under a ton of tension, so it's not that big of a concern. Get one more in there. Sometimes if you don't have young, supple fingers, some other older pinball people that have taught me a lot have used things like little picks or hooks to hook onto springs to get them into place. So yeah, if you need an extra tool, having something like a spring hook or something like this, I think this is just a dental pick. I probably got this at Harbor
Yeah,
Freight.
I was gonna say, can buy it on our website or go visit the dentist, and when he's not looking, just be like,
hey, can I borrow these tools?
I'm not condoning stealing from the dentist. Please don't do that.
Okay, so we've got springs. You might run into a position here where your drop target finger isn't lined up perfectly with like the plane that these things need to rotate in. So if you get done and you're trying to force a target up, you're trying to get it up, make sure that they're spaced correctly. You will notice that on the front of the drop target bank, there are slits that line these up. So that is the next challenge, is getting everything in plane perfectly before you start the reassembly. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to try to get all the drop targets to go up and rest on their ledge, because that will allow me, give me a little bit of room. It's a little finicky because they're all going to want to start flying all over the place. We'll get them up and out of the way on the bottom. We'll ensure that all of the fingers are in their grooves in the back here. Since we do have extra travel with the bottom of the bank being gone, you did notice the plunger for the reset coil is dangling. So we have to get this back into the solenoid before we put the bottom on.
Don't forget that part, yeah.
Yeah, that would be anticlimactic. And now you get to do my favorite part, which is like the balancing act of not letting this thing fall out, making sure the targets don't slam down, and getting these things dead on to kind of match up with this guy. Sometimes you can gather them up and shimmy it left and right to get them all into position, if that makes sense, kind of like how I'm doing now, gathering one at a time and then getting them all in like that. That's my favorite method.
Nice.
And I just lost all of it.
Gosh.
All right, let's do it again.
And then you have to hold it in place to screw it in?
Yeah. Let's try that again. I'm gonna grab one, grab another, grab the third one, the fourth one, the fifth one. Now, I'm going to not drop it. Oh, no, I lost it again. There it goes. Now that we have it like that, we can get these fingers over the other side. Oh no, did I lose it? Remember, this bracket does go on, it encapsulates the entire bracket. So what I mean by that is if this was your bracket, the bottom piece goes on the outside. And again, if you didn't take pictures and you went gung-ho and you're like, oh, I'm so excited to change my drop targets, and you get it back together and something just doesn't feel right, always remember to look for those witness marks, right? There are totally two screws on this side. If this thing was on the other side, you'd have fresh material on this piece of the bank. There was no screw there. So if you didn't take pictures, remember the witness marks. They can be really handy to getting these things back together.
Nice.
Just like that.
That's
now
it.
we will apply screws to said witness marks. And remember, there was two pieces to this assembly. So I'm going to just kind of loosely tack these things in place so it doesn't want to fall off again. I'm not going to tighten them. I'm not going to torque them. I just want to hold it in place. Like that.
Awesome.
Okay. And now,
and yeah, in Indie Pins, all the drop targets were from different manufacturers, different games. and very worn out. So even though they were working, we are changing them because look, they were gonna break at some point. Look how brittle they were.
Well, let's try to break one. Again, and there you go. That's why you need to change these targets. It's like, I don't like to do things purely for cosmetics a lot of the times, but I guarantee you, like,
you broke
this one's got a little bit of bend to it.
I was gonna use that for art.
Well, you can still use it. It's just in multiple pieces. You can see it's like they're all ready to go. These things are old. They're older than me, most likely. So it's just always worth, you know, if you're going through and like what people are calling shopping a game. I mean, that really involves getting this thing to last another 30 years, right? The games are old. You want to get it ready to go, put on location. Like, these are things you can't forget. This is all a massive headache service call that's much easier to do on your bench than it is to do at a bar or a brewery, whatever, your barcade. You know, get this stuff done, do it right, do it once.
Nice.
Now that we've got that, we can attach this guy. And again, these are the things that will allow us to level the drop targets to an extent. So they slide on the bottom here. What I'm doing is I'm just getting everything tacked in place again before I tighten everything down. I've got witness marks here, here, and here where screws used to go. I'm going to bend it my way so I can see a little better. It is satisfying to snap those drop targets. It's really like, yes, I'm doing the right thing. This was money well spent.
Yeah, they look beautiful. You know, I kind of miss the color mismatch of it, but they look very slick now.
It's going to look just like it almost left the factory after been played for 30-something years now. It'll be nice.
Yeah, 1986, 34 years.
You shouldn't need to grease these things. I do see a lot of debate whether it's like you throw a little teeny bit of grease onto the back sliders. You shouldn't need to. I don't think you're doing a crime if you do put a teeny little bit of grease. But you know, the thorough way to keep these things from having too much drag would be to, you know, clean the backs of these fingers, remove the switches, clean the back of these the actuator fingers. Sorry, camera. We'll check and see how these are once we get it back in the game. What I'm going to try to do just for a reference point now is, again, we could try to line up with the reference or the witness marks on the back of this this plate that levels the targets, and that's what we're going to try to do. What we'll need to do, though, is we will need to check and make sure that they are level against the playing field when we install the bank in the game. So for now, I am going to just try to screw them in where they used to be. We're not using tons of torque here. We're doing, you know, forefinger and thumb tightness.
Did you just pull that plate up a little? Like, are you holding that up? Or
nope.
Is it? Oh, okay.
It's resting in place. What I'm trying to do is just making sure we're getting it tight enough to live in its where it needs to be. This one needs to come up a little bit. There we go. And you don't need to spend too much time getting this right, because again, like the actual adjustment needs to be done in the game. You might get really lucky, and I'll cross my fingers and maybe we will get lucky, but the actual adjustment has to be done in the game.
So we want to make it tight, but not too tight right now.
I'm getting these tight, but we're not two-hand torquing and getting the thing like super tight. Since we are done with the final assembly of the bank, I will go in here and just make sure that all of these are snug, and I will use a good amount of torque. Remember that, I mean, you only have a 1/16 of an inch of thread, so putting too much torque, you'll strip the threads out of the sheet metal, and that's no fun. All right, that looks good. We've got new targets, and do they come up? They do.
Yay!
Do they fall down?
Thanks, Mitch.
They fall down. Cool.
Yay!
But
all right.
Before we get too excited and put it back in the game, we need to check out all these switches. So they are all closed right now. This might be hard for the camera to see. We want to make sure they're all open when the drop targets are up. one of them has very, very little gap, so I want to adjust that so you don't get any errant scoring. I will grab one of my switch adjusters, and I can see it here. I'm going to just gently bend this thing up very,
Can
very,
you
very
zoom
little.
in even a little bit more? Let's see how close we can get to that. I think we can see how
That's
if
pretty
it'll
good.
focus.
Yeah, what do we look like? Whoa. Oh, sorry, I should be using this screen too. But now I'll slowly rotate this. Maybe you can kind of see. We've all got a pretty even gap. One of them is still a little small, but we're looking at maybe an 1/8 of an inch of space. I'm better at millimeters. I'm going to say we've got maybe about 1.5 or 2 millimeters of space. They don't need too much because the fingers will... here, let me do it on this target. Tell me when you've got it focused on this guy. These fingers very much over travel when the drop targets fall. So you want to make sure you've got... Oh, God. What happened?
We got like close up of your arm hair. That was really good. We could really see it close up. Let me know if when you get another shot, I'll bring the camera back up.
Yeah, I think it'll be okay. Do we have it?
Oh, okay, cool.
We just want to get in on the switch right here. These things over travel, so when the finger comes down, it's really going to force this closed. So having a good open bit is totally acceptable. Just enough gap. You don't want it too close because when things start vibrating, you don't want these things to close and give you false points. So, anywho.
Nice.
Yeah, I think we're about ready to put this in. I'm going to check the stand-ups. Those didn't take any damage, so we're all good. Are there any questions while I try to fix this camera mount really quick?
Does anyone have any questions about the drop target installation? I feel pretty good about that. I feel confident.
It's pretty simple. It's not something that is too complicated, but there are some things you just want to keep an eye on when you're doing the disassembly and reassembly. All right, let me move this stuff back over here, and I want to make sure we've got enough light on the game. I'm just going to move a camera really quick. See if I can get a little bit more light on the inside of this thing. Since rebuilding the flippers, this thing is such a joy to play. I didn't think that the flippers were way too weak until I actually got in there and played my first game after we did all the work, and it was like night and day.
That's awesome. So now you have flipper rebuilds, the drop targets are good to go. Is this game ready to quote unquote be put on location or ready to play at home?
This one would be ready to play at home. I wouldn't be comfortable putting this one on location like with the work I've done, just because I haven't taken the whole game apart and tightened everything. This was, oh good, we've got everything back over here. Let me check this camera and kind of set this up just ever so slightly. This was an era of like austerity for Bally. Pinball was in a really, really bad place in the mid-'80s, and they just did not spend a lot of money putting these games together. So what I mean by that, by taking things apart and tightening them down, if we just look at the top of the playfield really quick, a lot of the posts in this game, want to switch to the Sony cam? I can just kind of, I'll try to point at things, but a lot of these posts, traditionally posts that would take like really big hits, or they're close to the flippers, and you'd get a lot of force exerted onto these things. They'd be attached with what's called a T-nut, which is a nut that goes in underneath the playfield, and then there's a machine thread screw that goes through the top. It's really secure. In this era, when they were trying to spend less and less and less, a lot of those things aren't done. And loose playfield posts are like the worst possible thing to have on location. You'll end up having stripped out screws, or you'll have balls get stuck where they're not supposed to be. So, long answer, this game isn't ready for location yet to my standards. Another problem with these old Bally games too is if you see here, these flipper return lanes, these guys here are made of plastic, and they wear away a lot right at the base of the flipper. So
Okay.
a common thing you'll see with older Bally games, like 8-Ball Deluxes and Fathoms and this era of game, is these will not be true, and you'll get a lot of awful ball hop, or the balls will get stuck here because they're worn away. I'd probably want to create new ball guides here if I were to ever put this game on location, just to make sure you don't have that problem.
Nice,
So,
interesting.
yeah,
Those
sorry,
all those
long
little
answer.
details really count. No, that's great. I love it. Yes, Indie Pins, we do sell a wide selection of drop targets.
Yes.
Do we have Gottlieb's Diamond Lady drop targets?
I don't know. That's something we'd have to check. It might be something we can, you know, we could get, but I'm not sure if we have them in stock. We do have a good range of Gottlieb's, whatchamacallit, like there are stamped drop targets from 70s all the way through the 80s. So
we do have a kit, so it would be
Perfect.
the sticker kit.
So yeah, I guess I can, I found something that I wanted to point out. Again, with like loose things. It's like, it might not seem like that big of a deal, but if we zoom in on this post here, you see this wiggle? It might be really hard to capture, but this thing moves just a teeny bit. But
that's not good.
If the ball keeps nailing this thing, it's just going to blow the hole out. That's why I always tell people, it's like, always be tightening. You always want to make sure everything's tight so the ball cannot go where it's not supposed to, or ruin and tear out playfield holes.
Yeah.
So, anyways, rant over.
No, that's good. I'm thinking of like, I have a post that's like kind of slowly canting
wiggling
to
its
the
way
side,
loose,
and that makes me sad.
Yeah, you want to check that. I mean, I'm looking underneath the playfield now, and it's like there's a T-nut there. There's a T-nut here. Usually the bottom of the slingshot will have a machine thread screw, because that, when you post pass, that takes a big brunt. But I mean, there's a T-nut here behind the drop targets, but a lot of these are wood screws, and you have to be careful with those. They're not fun to repair.
Right.
Okay. Anyways, rant over about tightening things. Let's get to putting this drop target bank in.
Yay.
I'm going to have to go with a frontal shot, which won't help too much with me reassembling it, but this isn't the exciting part. We've got our bank. We've got the cutout. We want to make sure that we don't bend these stand-up targets when we put it back in. So, you know, my plan of attack for this would maybe be to kind of come in from a high angle and then twist it down.
Okay.
Let's also make sure we've got some general illumination here. And these things are awfully close to where we might have a short on the drop target bank. Let's keep an eye on that. Let's get it in place and then double check to make sure our assembly is correct. I'm going to hold it in place with one hand. I'm going to find where I put my nut driver in my pocket, where it should be.
Nice.
And we will thread one of these guys in here. I definitely recommend using a magnetic nut driver for reassembly of this kind of stuff. They're very handy. Because unfortunately we only have two hands, and everything we need to do on pinball takes three. So let the magnet be your third hand.
Nice. Matthew, I added that to our list. He asked if we could see a tech video on how to repair a blown out post attachment point.
Yes.
I would love to see that as well.
Absolutely, yeah, and I'd like to do installing T-nuts. I see a lot of people like on the Reddit, Reddit group and the Facebook groups, like being scared about doing T-nuts, and it's really not that hard if you go in with like a little bit of confidence. So I think Roller Games actually has a couple screwed up posts holes. So maybe like on our last couple videos where we're really finishing up Roller Games, we can try that out.
Awesome.
What I'll do.
If anyone else has an idea of, you know, what you would want to see, feel free to shoot us an email at marcotv@marcopinball.com. We love y'all's input.
What I generally do with a blown out hole, I guess like for just the voice explanation, either get, I usually have a set of dowels, like really small wooden dowels, or toothpicks, and use some wood or Gorilla Glue, and just, you know, put a little bit of glue around the outside of the dowel or the toothpick, stick it in the hole, cut it with your flush cutters, flush with the playfield, and then reinstall the screw at that point. And that's a good fix. But let's try to do that with a real physical example.
I remember, I think it was Kevin Moore who mentioned using like those old, the wooden chopsticks you get at Chinese takeout.
That was a great tip, and I have amassed some chopsticks now to use.
We should try it with different ones. Like one hole use a chopstick, one use a wooden dowel, and one a bunch of toothpicks.
And then we'll program a rig to like automatically flip the ball and hit these posts, and we'll see how many thousands of hits they can take. This sounds great. Can we do this? Can I get the time to do that at work?
Yes, let's do it.
So right now I have this thing in there kind of loose. It's pretty tight, but I try not to like torque it all the way in so we can just check. I want to make sure I've got plenty of space between the lugs for the GI there. Most of the problems you have with GI shorts are absolutely user created. So always be cognizant of what is going on around what you're working on. So hopefully you can catch if you had created a problem. At this point, I am going to really torque this down. My magnetic nut driver is kind of delicate. The magnet's kind of chipped. So when I'm doing like really heavy torquing, I like to use my old trusty nut driver to do this stuff.
Nice.
Get it in there. I guess actually, before I do that, let me just peek up here.
Oh yeah, is it good?
Yeah, I'm going to show that when we bring the target down. What you want to make sure in some games, it's a lot of times I've noticed it like on 8-ball deluxes and stuff, when you have that massive bank of drop targets, there is a condition where you could get it way closer to one end than the other. A lot of what I did at my last pinball shop job was correcting people doing poor playfield swaps. So I did this all the time. People would put their 8-ball deluxe banks in super crooked, and the drop targets would fall if you would hit the flipper. You want to make sure that these things are all parallel when you put them in, and this one is. So I'll show you what I mean when we get this thing all buttoned up.
Cool.
Nice and tight. We'll check the levels, because again, since this bank does have targets behind it, we want to make sure that we do not have the drop targets sticking up and impeding our ability to hit those stand-ups. That's all good. Let's not forget to plug the bank back in. These Molex plugs, they are one-way plugs basically. They are keyed, even though they look like they're all kind of the same size hole. Let me get this camera in place and I'll try to explain.
So we know where to plug it in.
Yeah. There's only one way to plug it in, but you can see that you have a couple pins on this thing that are flat on the top. Some of them are all round. Some of them are Ds. Obviously, the colors are the same on both sides of the harness. So if you're ever in doubt, or you're ever in the chance that you could plug something in backwards, which you absolutely can. This is something to remember on like System 6, System 7 Williams games. There are two gigantic square plugs in the back of the head when you disconnect the head from the playfield that you can plug in backwards. And it causes a lot of problems, and I've done it before. It's you end up sending like solenoid voltage to things that should only be getting like 6 volts, and you make all the light bulbs explode, and yeah, it's not fun.
Okay, so always
story,
take pictures and reference those photos.
Well, reference things like this, right? You've got your harness side here. If you want to switch to the smaller camera, let me move the camera a bit. You've got your harness side of the plug, right? And then you've got your driven device, which is the drop target bank. Yeah.
Okay.
You got it. So on the harness side, you can see here, it's like, okay, let's look at the top row of these wires, right? Black with a blue stripe, fat yellow, gray with orange.
Down a little.
Sorry.
Oh.
So I can, you could count and see, okay, black, yellow, gray. Oh, okay, we got black, yellow, gray. Does it go this way? Yes. They're always going to match. I can't think of any instances when, like, there were very few instances when the harness side does not match the driven device side. So when in doubt, just try to match up your wire colors. That's not an end-all be-all. You will find games, especially like electromechanical games, where the colors and the wires will fade, and reds will be whites, and yellows will be non-existent, browns will be red. So, be careful. Don't use that as like an end-all be-all, but investigation. Use use your eyes. They're a very important tool. Black to black, yellow to yellow, gray to gray. You got it.
Nice. Looks good. So now it should just work when you turn it on, right?
In a perfect world, yes.
Ooh, this is
Let's
exciting.
see. We want to make sure we do one more check. Tight, plugged in. Do a freedom of movement check, right? It resets, and I'm going to individually drop all of them. This one felt a little slow, but I had a spring fly off. Always want to test things by hand before you put them back in. It's really can really cause you or keep you from getting these annoying headaches when you're like, man, I just want to play. Yeah, everything seems like it works fine. Let's bring the playfield down.
Nice.
I can readjust this camera to show the drop targets a little closer, so we can see if we are level. It looks so nice, and it matches with the beautiful cards on the playfield.
It does look a lot nicer.
I do like, my favorite pinball games are always janky pinball games, but this does look good.
Oh, did you take a before picture of your drops? We have that, right?
Yes, you have them.
A close-up? It would be nice to see it before and after.
So we can, okay, so there we go. There's a problem, right? When I'm testing these things when they're back in like their natural state where you've got gravity doing the work, you want to try to like I try to use a condition that isn't replicatable in gameplay, right? When you're shooting these drop targets, the ball's flying up here. But you can solve problems ahead of time by trying to, how slow can this work? That one's fine. That one's fine. That one's fine. That one's fine. This one, as you can see, didn't drop all the way. You can see it poking out just a teeny bit.
Yeah.
So what we want to do is I'm going to go back in there and I'm going to make sure that the actuator for, let me zoom out so I can use hand motions. We want to make sure that the actuator for the switch, the finger, there's not too much pressure being applied by the actual blade for the switch. If it's pushing up against the finger too much, it'll create resistance where it won't just drop. It could have been a one-off silly thing. Let's try again. Let's look at it. One time is a failure rate that is not acceptable to me. So let's take a look and see what happens. Before we jump in there, though, they are pretty even. This one's dropped down a little bit, so I'm going to want to try to bring the jack and the 10 up a teeny bit. It's not that important, but you can keep the this 90-degree bend here where the drop targets are routed out from wearing out prematurely. If the ball has to like drop down and then come back, you'll start wearing this edge. So you can use the drop targets to make it a nice, smooth rollover.
Nice. That's where you see a lot of those stucky ball posts.
Oh, absolutely.
It's just like stuck in between a drop target on that. So now I get why.
Now that's something you want to avoid. You can't get stuck here. It kind of can. But, well, maybe we'll look at that. But in real life, the ball's going to be flying up here. It's not going to have as much time to stay. But you want to try to tune a lot of these things out before you start going and playing the game. That's just, every time the ball can get stuck is time not playing pinball. So.
Right.
So, let's see what we can do. Let's get the things adjusted height-wise better. Give me a sec here. I'll reset this camera. So we had those screws on the back of this this plate here. What I'm going to try to do is loosen just the side that's low. So you have to see a big shot of my head. We've got 2 screws here holding this thing on. So I'm going to just loosen them a teeny bit. We want to use we don't want to loosen them all the way or else the thing will flop down.
Could
we
want
to use the tension.
Angle?
What's up?
Could we get like a side angle and see where you're actually doing it from?
I can. Let me just move some lights.
And yes, family games, that's what, I guess how you would be raising them all slightly to help that, you want them to be flush, right?
Yeah, we want to try to make them flush by raising them up a bit. Let me,
I guess I could have switched to a different camera real quick.
Are you sure you don't want to keep giving people nausea?
Kung Shu, thanks for joining us. We are streaming from Lexington, South Carolina, close to Columbia, South Carolina.
All right. got a little bit of a side view. But what we're going to try to do, again, instead of like using brute force, what's up?
No, I was just like disoriented of what we were looking at. It looks really cool. But yes, this is a great angle.
Lazy way to do this would be just to push and bend. But since we kind of want to raise all of them, let's just move this bank up a millimeter, right? So instead of loosening them all the way and letting the thing just kind of flop down, we're going to just, we're going to use the tension of the bolts holding it together to work with us instead of against us with a lack of tension. So I'm going to get in here and like loosen, I'm going to hold it. I'm going to loosen this thing like a quarter of a turn. This is the stuff you've got to learn how to do by feel. A lot of pinball is doing things by feel because you can't see. But now that those are a little loose, I'm going to try pushing up just a teeny bit, and I'm going to see where we've come out. Since this is adjusting all of these things in like the total plane, all in one direction, that's where it is handy to be able to bend these little fingers up and down individually if you've got a misshapen drop target or something. But we'll get this nice and tight. I will loosen this side up, and I will raise this just a teeny bit. We were able to get a stuck ball there just ever so slightly. Let's see if we can tune that out. We want to make sure that the drop targets can still latch when we've moved them up a few millimeters. They latch fine. They fall fine. This one's still a little bit lazy.
Yeah, it came down slower. I saw that.
I don't like that. So let's watch and see. I can look back here. And it's kind of getting held up on this actuator here, just ever so little, enough to make it annoying. Let's see if we can adjust. It might have too much pressure this way, and that's causing the, the slow trajectory of this thing to not be able to slam down. What we can do is let's try bending the switches just ever so slightly. I can open up the gap here. I'm going to get my switch adjuster to make a better, precise adjustment. But this is where I said cleaning really comes in handy. If you get these things both super clean, use like Novus to polish them, you should have perfect action. Oop,
use Novus to polish the switches?
To polish like the surface of the switch, yeah, not the actual contacts of the switch, but this guy here. Does this show through in the video at all? The bent actuator piece that the finger rubs against. You've got your two blades of the switch here and here, but then what the drop target actually rubs against is this bent black metal piece there.
I think we would need to be like a little bit lower looking up to really be able to see what you're talking about.
Yeah, probably. Let me see if I can adjust this thing a teeny bit lower since the action is all right here right now.
We gotta be like...
I can kind of see it from where we're at. Let me see.
It looks cool.
It does look kind of cool. Sorry, let me reframe this.
Yeah, you just gotta drop the tripod down a bit.
Just ever so slightly.
Just a midge. A midge. A smidge. Midge.
Smidge. Alright, where are we at? Now you can kind of see it. Let me zoom in a teeny bit. We can really fine tune this thing. This is important. These are like bugs that you need to work out when you swap drop targets. It's not always a one, just replace them and go. It's this piece right here. See me bending it down?
Okay.
So this piece, this bent part right here, when the drop target drops, the finger pushes against that and closes the switch to score. So the problem we're having right now is it's just offering too much resistance and it's keeping the thing from dropping really fast. You also have to remember that gravity does play a big part in dropping these targets. So right now with the target sitting at, almost parallel to the floor, it's not going to fall with the same, speed as it would as if they were sitting perpendicular. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to try to adjust this out a teeny bit. And give it a little bit of freedom. It probably has some gunk built up, a little bit of just dirt, and that is keeping it from having smooth, clean action.
Yeah, that's what Family Games on Twitch was saying. There's often grime on the sides of the brackets where you can't see, And 5 minutes in an ultrasonic cleaner with simple green does wonders for slow drop targets.
Absolutely.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and that's another
And Kevin
benefit of.
Moore says needs more grease.
So, like I said earlier, I don't. Grease is an okay thing to use here, but it wasn't built with grease, so you should be able to get this device to work without it. In a pinch, I would absolutely, if this was on location, I just wanted this thing to work because it was Friday and I, wanted the thing to keep earning money, I would probably throw a teeny bit of grease on there and come fix it correctly the next day. But right now, let's see if we can just use a cloth to clean it up.
Tatooine Sky asked, could it be the spring that's preventing it from going down like that?
No, the spring is definitely, it's not, it hasn't been mangled. So the spring should be fine. It should be sufficient, right? It's definitely resistance from this thing. So
we want to know more about this ultrasonic cleaner device.
They're amazing.
It's like I feel like I've seen photos of it. Can you describe it, Kyle?
Yeah, it's like it heats like a cleaning solvent, and then uses like ultrasonic vibrations to vibrate and clean the heck out of everything inside the tub. So a combination between like a cleaning solvent, the heat, and the ultrasonic vibrations will just make everything like new. It's incredible.
Carrie, I was literally just about to say I've seen Carrie use it in his Getaway series. So go check out Carrie Hardy on YouTube for that close-up shot of him. He drops all these parts into this little cauldron, and then they come out looking beautiful.
So that might be a tumbler. I don't know what Carrie was using, but you've got two different things. You've got like what's called a media tumbler, and you'll use like crushed up walnut shells to polish things. An ultrasonic cleaner is good for getting like small, delicate parts like supremely clean. I see. Both of those things are really handy if you do want to clean up pinball stuff.
Nice.
Okay, so we have, I think this is going to work okay now. Let me drop the playfield and we'll take a look. I'm going to get my head in here one more time.
Carrie,
and
drop in what episode that is where you use it so we can reference it in our show notes. And by the way, everyone, all these videos are archived on our YouTube page, and we drop in time-coded show notes, so it's easy to find what you want to reference to later on, since this is like an hour and a half long.
And if something I've said does not make sense and you want some clarification, do not hesitate to like email me, and I can try to slow down and explain the process a little bit better. It's hard trying to like brain dump on camera.
Oh, you do a great job.
I'm a little anxious.
This is awesome. No, you're doing awesome. How many cups of coffee did you have today?
Only one.
Enough. Yeah, I can tell.
I only had one at the office. I didn't even get my like good coffee on the way to work today, and I haven't eaten lunch. I'm trying to do like fruit and
sometimes
nuts
Kyle was like, but he's pretty chill, and you're doing good.
Thank you. Okay, so let's try again. We've got some nice dropping action on all of the targets that worked fine. Yay. And that one worked okay. I would like to, in the long run, if this ever gives me another problem, take this thing apart and clean it. I will take that switch off. I'll generally get Novus and polish the heck out of the back of that thing, get the finger, polish that thing up, and good, clean, smooth action will entail. Let's get the ball. And the ball will probably get stuck.
Oh, okay. Not really. You did good.
Not really. It gets stuck in a few places, but part of this mechanism are these little fingers here that come off from the stand-up switches. So what I might be able to do is bend this thing up just a teeny bit and make it a little proud so it couldn't get stuck. This is kind of splitting hairs. This won't be a problem in like real life, but you know, I like to, when I go through a game, or if I sell a game, or if I put it on location, like, I don't want this to ever happen. I don't want to have to do a service call. So my brain always goes to these as the biggest problem. Let me get a tool. I'll see if I can kind of bend it up just a teeny bit.
And you're going to bend it up with the playfield down, yeah? It looks
Yeah,
like
I
you
wouldn't
can
be able
just...
to access it from the top. I'm gonna put this down here to protect the from any scratching, and these are very, very thin, so I'm just gonna
Nice.
kind of try to
What tool are you using
pop it
to
up.
pull it up?
My handy dandy custom bent screwdriver.
We love that screwdriver. So Kyle bent this himself, and he uses it so much.
It's my favorite
On the
tool. What maybe I should make some, and we could sell them to all of the PinTech pupils that desire this tool.
Oh, there you go. Add it to the NPI list.
Yeah, I've got enough things on the new product list. I've got enough work for like 10 of me's to do this year. Get these things and make them a little prouder.
Nice.
No stuck balls. And it's not doing anything weird to impact the target, so we're good.
Yay!
So pretty straightforward. There's definitely a few things you want to look at and look for when you're doing this job, but it's definitely something you want to do. When you get a new game, this is something to do, along with rebuilding the flippers. Games that have front-facing drop targets like this get beat on, right? The ball's constantly being smacked up into these things, so they will break a lot more often than on a game like, you know, my Viking, where they're all off to the side kind of like this, or, you know, like Knight Rider or Matahari, where they're kind of at an angle like this, where they take more glancing shots instead of front-on assault from the ball. But yeah, drop targets. Let's see if they work. This is where you cross your fingers and hope everything's okay. Ah! All right. So...
Ooh, I hear it. Okay, so we get to see it actually play.
Yeah, let's just take a look. We make sure all of our
Awesome.
switches work. We visually checked and made sure everything looks good, but... Scored.
This is the best part. This is the victory lap right here.
Yeah. There we go. They all scored. They're all fine. In this game, once you score the suit, which is your bonus, you get to nail the jokers. So,
oh, the sounds are so great.
Everything's good.
Oh, our autofocus on the Sony just went like, oh, there it is. That was kind of pretty. Awesome.
But, yeah, this will be fun to play. I can't wait to bring this game home.
Yes, we are glad it didn't catch fire, Andy Pin says. Congratulations.
Yeah. You always know you did it right
alive.
when it doesn't catch on fire, right?
Yay. Well, all right, Kyle. That was a really great tutorial on how to work on Bally drop targets. And thank you, everyone in the chat, for joining us and also giving y'all's tips too. We love that.
Yeah.
And a few questions from the chat, and then we're gonna sign off.
Let's take some questions. This is my favorite part.
Yeah, it really is. How do you recommend getting a drop target to register an opto when it's working, but the E-clips aren't pushing one side of the drop close enough to the opto sensor?
Hold on here.
I barely touched the board, then I know you have to.
It sounds like you're talking about a Williams drop target.
What game are we talking about? Family games. It
sounds like it's a System 11 game, like the drop target board that we did on roller games.
Earthshaker.
Yeah, okay, so same board. You want to make sure with those... Sorry, forgot the slam tilt makes a bunch of noise. Okay, so the drop target is not activating it because you don't think it's close enough. Make sure that all of the rubber grommets in the circuit board are there. Those rubber grommets, they help space the board. You need to make sure all of your springs and washers are all in the right spot. Take a look at the parts manual and make sure you have all your washers in the right spot. If you're missing the washers towards the bracket and away from the opto, the drop target will sit like a ½ millimeter in, and that could be enough to screw with it. If you're using original hardware, if you're using a reproduction board, the issues could be different. So if you're having problems, let me know, especially if you bought the reproduction board from us. I could help you with that.
Nice. And from Hollow Gazer, Stern lighting getting 7 flashes on the MPU board, but it's not turning on. What's my next step? Oof.
Stern lightning getting 7 flashes. Well, so I'm assuming you're running a stock computer. That's a hard one without being there to see it. I hope that you're not mistaking the 7th flash for the 6th flash. Sometimes when you power those games on, it gives like a little plung. I don't know if lightning is one of the games that makes the noise, like the beeps. It actually goes through the soundboard and goes like ding, 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 ding. But I'd make sure that you're not actually getting 6 flashes. Try to confirm that. I don't remember what the 6th flash is. I don't know if that's the ROM or the RAM.
They said, yes, I have the noise.
And you can confirm that it is giving you like 7 flashes? That's interesting. If it's a stock board, I'd be very curious about corrosion. Look at your sockets, make sure all your chips are socketed or seated well. I forget the actual, I need to look that up to see what the flashes are. I remember the 5th flash is the presence of 42 volts, but that's the only one I can remember.
Yeah, 7 flashes and 7 noises. We're really putting Kyle on the spot here.
I know, I like it, I like it. I wish I could remember a lot of this stuff, but again, sometimes I have to reference books to remember what all those flashes are. I would
and the board
say
is
this.
Clean.
If you have the opportunity, put a working board in there and make sure it is the computer and it's not something else holding the board up. That's where I'd start. I know that not everyone has a pile of pinball parts laying around, but if you have another MPU or an Alltech or a Weebly board to throw in there, try that first. That's where I'd start at least.
Oh, from Magic Ditto, this is William Aztec won't fire the add credit coil. Any advice outside tracing the line from the coin door?
I'd have to look at the schematic. Add which? Add player?
The add credit coil.
Add credit coil. Yeah, that would be hard. I wouldn't be able to trace that without the schematic.
Ooh, for the Aztec too, you can go into that EM pinball repair class where they do a call. Oh, does anyone have a link to that? Who runs that again? I feel like I should know. I sit in the class every once in a while when I can, and it's so awesome.
Awesome, dude. Fun. His thing is fun with pinball. I forgot what his name is, but the guy is incredible. Made all these bench-mounted pinball devices, so you could see like push a button and watch a pop bumper work, and it's really amazing. But I forgot his name, but cool. I know him and Nick Schnell and my friend David Valansky. They all panel in on that, and they are electromechanical wizards.
Yeah, so you should join that. Yep, thank you, funwithpinball.com. Look for their live seminars, and you can actually submit an application for you have a camera yourself, like your cell phone or whatever, and you show them the problem, and they all sit there and look and pull the schematics up in real time and try to service your pinball machine over the internet. And
it's incredible.
Really fascinating.
It's three of like the most talented electromechanical people I know. You know, I should know what does the credit up on a Williams electromechanical, but a lot of electromechanical stuff is very methodical for me. I don't have it like bashed into my head like I do know a lot of this stuff. That's why we kind of haven't done an EM on the show yet, because me fixing an electromechanical is like an hour's worth of working and like an hour of me going like, come on, why can't I figure this out? So yeah. We'll get one on though. I would like, my 2001 has a couple teeny problems, and my Jack in the Box is being grumpy. My Grand Prix is also being grumpy, so we have plenty of candidates.
Oh, hey, I asked this question earlier too. The Stern Pirates of the Caribbean Aztec shooter rod, will that fit in the Williams EM game? The Aztec. So I want to use that cool looking Aztec shooter rod from Stern. Wait, Stern. Oh yeah, from Stern's older Pirates of the Caribbean. Can I put that in the EM?
I don't think so. I
asked him the same question about. I wanted to put the Lord of the Rings One Ring on my hard body, and he was like, no.
I think if I remember right, the Stern shooter rod is a bit longer than the Williams one. I think Aztec uses like the same length shooter rod as like even the WPC games at that point, but I think the Stern ones are longer. So, I mean, the answer, like, can you? Yes. Will it work well? Probably not. You need to do some modifications.
All right, cool. And if they want to ask you more questions, Kyle, can they send you an email?
Yes, give me more things to respond to. I like solving people's problems because I don't have enough sitting behind me right now. But especially, I'm really interested in whoever asked about that lightning. I'm really fascinated by that one. You can email me, just kyle@marcopinball.com or marcotv@marcopinball.com. Is that what it is?
Oh, you're not Case Pateri at marcopinball.com?
That's
you
my
just have
alter.
Kyle?
That's my alter email address.
Oh,
it's
nice.
way easier to say Kyle
one.
at Marco Pinball because.
That's awesome that you have that one. I'm gonna start using it too.
Yes, thank you, Paul.
Cool.
So yeah,
I put it in there. Awesome. Well, thank you everyone for hanging out with us, and we will see you next Thursday, which we will be doing more pinball repair on something.
What are we gonna do?
Maybe we'll get our roller game parts in. Maybe not. We have a list that we've been collecting from everyone of things we want to see.
Yeah.
You know, we still want to look at Kyle's tool bag. You know, that's a novice episode for people like me.
If people are interested in seeing that, let us know. I know I've had one or two emails about it. I think someone talked to me about it on Reddit. I would like to show, like, you know, what you need for pinball and what is handy for pinball. But yeah, I'm not sure what we should do next week. I know that one of the things I wanted to do was adjusting a shooter housing. And the only game I can think to do that on is Twilight Zone. We could take a look at my Twilight Zone and see what's broken on that thing. Thankfully, it's actually like the most reliable game I've ever owned. But yeah, I don't know. Any suggestions? Let me know. If one of my games has it, I'm happy to throw that in there and break something so we can fix it.
Ooh, that could be fun. Awesome. And yes, I'm sure I need to get another pinball machine. Everyone's getting tired of me talking about my hard body.
No, that's the only game anyone ever needs. You're good with that.
When I bring it to Texas Pinball Festival, I am retheming it to be named Hardy Body.
Huh. What about Harney Body?
No. All right, bye everybody. Thanks so much for hanging out with us. We will see you next week, and don't forget that free shipping for orders over $99 code that's active right now and ends tomorrow at
Buy
3.
some parts. There's plenty of pinball parts you can buy.
Ground. And happy repairing your pinball machines, and then happy flipping them.
Yeah.